Hi, I'm Ember Conley, your host for Political Peaks. I'm joined today with the police chief of Park City, Wade Carpenter. Welcome to the show.
How are you, Ember?
Fantastic. Every session that we have with the legislature in Utah oftentimes provides changes or updates, of course, to law enforcement. Were there any big changes or even small changes that will affect your police force here in Park City?
Yes, Amber, this will affect statewide law enforcement. We've been working very hard with the Law Enforcement Legislative Committee. This year, I was the president of the the Utah Chiefs of Police Association, which means that we were very, very involved in the legislation and working with the legislature to come up with bills that would both protect the communities and would also assist law enforcement in doing a better job. And obviously, a lot of the changes that we're seeing throughout the country also we're seeing here at home. So we had some 200 bills this year that were at the legislature. We basically boiled those down to about 86 bills that had direct impact on local law enforcement. And we're able to work with representatives and senators to make sure that at the end of the day, we were doing the right things for the state of Utah. I've highlighted some of those bills that passed and kind of the pros and cons of those. I'd be happy to cover some of those. Fantastic. The nice thing, which was unique this year, these were bipartisan bills. Most of them were all bipartisan bills from both Democratic and Republican senators and state representatives from the House side and from the Senate side. So it was a very unique year. I was very appreciative of the willingness everyone had to work together. So let me know when you'd like me to start on.
Go for it.
Quick bill summary. All right. Yep. HB 162 was Representative Romero's bill. She ran this bill. It would require post-audit for specific courses in annual in-service training, primarily responses to arrest control, de-escalation techniques, what we have to do to deal with mental health, and to require police officers to have training in these areas. Additionally, there was an autism bill that was passed that would require law enforcement to have additional training every 2 to 3 years in autism, which I think is really good. I think this is, I learned yesterday from the Utah Autism Awareness Group, and that may be the wrong name, but I believe that's what it is, that 1 in 52 individuals in the state of Utah struggle with autism. And I think that it's not a matter of if an officer is going to have an encounter with somebody who struggles with autism, but when. And so that's very important for us that we understand that dynamic and our officers are trained to deal with that.
Well, and I know for a fact that Utah is in the top 5 of the number of children that are diagnosed with autism. And of course, having very unique responses, especially to, really intense situations. So that is fantastic news.
Yeah, you would know as a former school district superintendent, I think we're in the top 3 in the country for the autism spectrum. Yep. So as you stated, that's very important. That's HB 334. Representative Elison passed that. Mm-hmm. That will also be a requirement for a 4-hour block for our in-service training for our new officers that are coming into the police academy. So we're actually creating a requirement for that as well as our in-service training.
When you have additional,
we had a bill from Senator Iamoda, which she worked with post council for a number of months on this bill. What it was, it's requiring law enforcement agencies or a training academy to provide information to a prospective employer that requests information from law enforcement agencies. Kind of the long and short of this is traditionally law enforcement has not been great about sharing information on bad officers, meaning that when we have officers that have been terminated or have left our employment during an investigation. A lot of times agencies were allowing individuals to leave agencies while an investigation was underway. We have never done that in Park City, by the way. We've always closed our investigations out and shared that information with another agency if that agency inquires of us, and also if they have a signed release from the officer. So essentially what this bill does is requires that an agency needs to close that out, that open case, if there's like a policy violation or a criminal violation. And then at that point, if that officer tries to go to another agency, that officer is flagged and that information is mandatorily shared. So I think that is a huge benefit. I happen to serve as the post council chairman, and just yesterday we sat through 7 decertifications. No, they weren't all decertifications, but they had differing levels of disciplinary action that we're taking. Some months or quarters, it's as high as 20 plus officers. And law enforcement has always been very, very good at holding our own accountable in that level. Where we've struggled is when we have cases that we're actually trying to close out and an officer leaves under a cloud of doubt. This will now close that loophole.
Awesome. You know, in those, I want to go back to the additional training hours that these bills will require. Are these unfunded mandates, or will you receive extra funding either from the state, or will you have to go to the city council to request extra funding for these, certification hours?
Unfortunately, you kind of hit the nail on the head. We're required every year to have a minimum of 40 hours of in-service training. That's varying. That's some of those are intoxilizer training, DUI training, domestic violence training, dealing with crisis intervention, mental health awareness. They go on and on. With these additions, they have not added monies to our training requirements. And to fit that within our existing 40-hour envelope is very difficult. Now, a lot of people think it's just the cost of the training, but you need to realize I have to pull every officer in and have them trained on all of these different issues. And so that is an increased cost to our cities and counties. And so that is an unfunded mandate, essentially.
I'm Ember Conley, your host for Political Peaks. Remember to follow us on Facebook and Twitter at Park City TV, over the air on Channel 36, and our Comcast channels 17 and 102.